Hey, so someone wanted to see how I have my push button start located here. So I'm going to crack this bad boy open. This is a T20 Torx on my 2018 Jeep Wrangler JKU. So I ended up having to use an extension on an extension, which kind of reminds me of the movie Inception. Anyway, I digress. Let's get in here. Got it cracked there, and the T20 bolt is out. Now the rest of this top portion and the bottom portion, it just splits open. If you have a trim piece removal tool, that might help, or a flathead. I would recommend using some electrical tape on the end. That way you don't scratch your plastic as you're trying to separate the bottom portion from the top portion. Now you'll notice I took off this panel down here, and that exposes all this here. This is just to give you a better idea of how I ran the wiring. I kind of circled it around because it's so long. This is part of the EasyGuard wiring. I taped it up here, and then down here. I taped it down here on this bottom portion. And then I ran it right over there, so you guys can see. Here's my ignition. And you can see I used an old key that I had cut off of a key fob, and I left a little bit of that. I left a little bit of the key exposed. That way, I can take a needle nose plier and I can turn the needle nose plier, which would then turn the ignition if I need to. Because with my fingers, I cannot get a good purchase on that whatsoever. So yeah, this is how this is set up. And then that board, that circuit board that you guys see here, this is the piece of the key that EasyGuard needs in order to communicate to turn the vehicle on. It's looking for this handshake that happens here on this copper wiring with this coil. This is the ignition coil. You can't see it, it looks like a piece of plastic, but in here is an inductive coil that reads that piece of copper. EasyGuard makes a little gold coil, and it makes the install much easier. You guys don't have to do it this way. This is just how I did it. Also, you want to be really mindful of where your clock spring is located. You don't want this clock spring to turn on you because it can break. So FYI. You also don't have to take off your steering wheel. I took off my steering wheel because it makes things much easier. Now here's what I mean. Got my needle nose. That's in the off position. That's accessory. That's accessory 2. And then that's me trying to crank, but nothing happens. And that's because the EasyGuard system is a man in the middle. Let's show that again. This is in the off position where I can take the key out. And then this is accessory, accessory 2. And then trying to go to ignition, nothing happens. But it needs to stay in accessory 2. I think that's called accessory 2. You guys will correct me in the comments of what the actual real name of that is. But anyway, ACC mode, or the second switch, it's basically the switch that you would be in before you turn it over to crank the motor. And now this rubber seal, which I gotta clean, by the way, that goes around the push button start. That's what that looks like. It screws into the back of that silver plate, and that silver plate is holding on to the inside of that plastic. And this is the plastic that I'm talking about, right here. One of the hardest parts of this install is these 4 screws. That's the most difficult part. And here's why it's the hardest part. They're so tiny, and then the wiring gets fed through that silver bracket, which you've wrapped around the stock plastic piece. But yeah, that's the hardest part. They're so tiny that it can be very difficult to keep up with them. Now, the way that I did it is I installed the bracket, then I ran the wiring through that little silver bracket, and then I screwed down the actual push start button. And then I came out here with this whole plastic trim and I fed it underneath this little plastic portion that lets the steering column go up and down. And then I put the wiring around here because there was so much excess. You don't have to do that. You could just zip tie it, probably easier. And then I connected it to the brain, this big old black box that my finger's touching that you guys probably can't see very well. There you go. See that? Yeah, now that that's removed, you get a better view of what I'm talking about. I think on my Jeep, what I'll do on this one here, and the reason I'm taking this off is because this is more of a gray and this is an actual black, which matches the black up here. Bit of an OCD person, so yeah, I don't know why this was gray, or maybe the sun grayed it out, but anyway, I'm just removing that, and I thought this is a good idea to show you guys how this is installed here. Super tiny. Oh yes, what I was gonna mention is this piece, I'm gonna try to break that off because that piece of plastic was causing some issues. Well, I don't want to say issues. I mean, obviously it was fine, but it just wasn't sitting nice and flush with this hole. It kind of like protruded out one way a little bit, and you couldn't really tell because the rubber piece was hiding most of it. I knew that it was there because, of course, I'm the one that installed it. So, and like I showed earlier, this is the brains of the operation. And right inside that white hole right there, where my finger's pointing, that is where this plugs in. But the brains basically are just a man in the middle where, let's see, I forget which one of these. Maybe this one? I don't remember. Anyway, I don't lie to you guys. It's in the instructions on EasyGuard. I mean, the instructions were super simple. The difficult part is just removing this stuff. That's pretty much it. And then dealing with wires like that, or dealing with the tiny screws like that. I've seen people install their push button start here. I've seen people not even install the push to start button. They just have the regular ignition and that's it. I wanted to hide this so you couldn't really see it that much. That's the only reason I put mine there. But yeah, some people just don't even install this because you don't need this for this operation to work. Okay, so all that gray area, that's where I took off those tabs. I think that's gonna sit flush. Well, I think it'll sit a little bit better against this plastic here. Well, change of plans. I went ahead and put the bracket on with the screws, and then I'll bend the tabs back, push this thing in there, get it all lined up. I don't remember it being this complicated when I first did it. I think that these were already pre-installed. So yeah, learn from me. Don't undo those screws. I think it was pre-installed. I mean, I can't remember. It's been quite a long time. And then I think I painted this, and the reason why is because I can see that that's coming off. But if I remember correctly, I painted this black because I think it was chrome originally. All right, that's lined up much better. If I were more of a patient man, I would make the plastic hole bigger so that the push button would sit a bit more flush. But let me throw that rubber piece on. You can see what I'm talking about here. I have not got the tabs pushed back just yet. Okay, there we go. Rubber piece is on. And you see what I'm talking about? It's not perfectly flush how I would want it. But considering something it's barely anything that your passenger's going to see or look at, it's fine. It's just something that I notice. And then I definitely don't see it ever unless I'm cleaning on the passenger side. Then I'll look over or I'll look up and I'll see it when I'm cleaning the seat or cleaning the floor. Okay, I've got that wire put back in. There it is. You can see that orange blue wire. Got that thing clipped back in, and I also put a piece of felt down so that this thing wouldn't rattle against the rubber and it wouldn't scratch up that plastic. And we can verify that the wire is clipped in correctly because we've got a blue light here. It's a good sign. And we'll just test it, make sure everything's working right. There's ACC or whatever it's called. One more time, then everything turns on. And then since my foot's not on the brake, I click it one more time, everything turns off. if my foot were on the brake and then I clicked it, it would turn on. The only thing left to do is to hook back up to the GPS / Bluetooth / 4G LTE module. Yours won't look like this. Mine just has this rubber piece because it ends up getting Velcroed to the back of the plastic piece that goes in here. That way this thing doesn't shake around. So yeah, I'll plug this in. This piece goes in right here to this guy, and then I'll button everything back up. So I'm wrapping this coil around here, and then I'll feed it so where you can't see it. But this leads down here where I've got the factory chip immobilizer board out of a key fob, and I'll put some what's it called? Some felt. I'll put some felt down here, and then I'll put some Velcro right here, and I'll just Velcro it down so that it won't shake around or move around. But the reason I'm doing this is because I originally had this chip immobilizer board out of my factory key fob. As you guys saw in the beginning of the video, I had it taped down here, and it would just sit about right there once you put this plastic piece up. But it was being weird. It was intermittently working. And what I mean by that is, like 9 out of 10 times the Jeep would start. But that 1 out of 10 times required me to hit the start button like 2 times, 3 times, 4 times with my foot on the brake to get it to go. And other times when I would remote start from my phone, or when I would remote start from the EasyGuard key fob, the Jeep would honk. And after talking to Eddie over at EasyGuard, he's the customer service guy that has his WhatsApp number on all the EasyGuard systems, like inside the box. That's the guy to contact. Anyway, I talked to him, and he says, yeah, man, there might not be a very good handshake with how I had this mounted. I mean, ideally, if I could have this like shoved in here somewhere, that would probably be good. But nonetheless, I'm going to try this and see how this fares. All right, I got the felt laid down on the board, and then I've got the Velcro side laid down on the chip immobilizer board out of my factory key fob. Hard to do with one hand. All right, with the power of YouTube editing, we are in business, boys. Wouldn't mind if this was a little closer. I'm assuming that's how that works. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to test this out for the next couple of weeks and see if I have even a single missed start. All right, you see that black wire right here that I'm dangling? I've got that bad boy slid down in there. You can see it. That is not its final resting place. That's just where I'm putting it for now to test it for the next couple of weeks. And then I'll tuck all these wires in and get this buttoned up. Well, to get this to snap in on the back, and this gap will close up once I put the Torx screws on. But to get that to sit flush, I ended up having to drop this plastic piece here. Dude, the rat's nest of wiring back here. Now, not all of this is for the EasyGuard. About half of that wiring is for the LED air vents that I also put on a Bluetooth module so that I could control the air vent color through my phone or through my Joying head unit. Of course, there's videos on my YouTube about that. I digress. But just for your sanity, I would recommend dropping this piece of plastic so that you can get this nice and buttoned up here. Now it's time to put on those Torx screws. And then if everything works, I'll come back in here later, probably in about 2 weeks, and I'll tidy this up so that my OCD doesn't have doesn't sit there and worry about how those wires just are kind of a mess back in there. Okay, that's a wrap here. I've tested this by dropping it. No wires are getting pinched. I recommend you guys do the same. This is nice and flush, except for here. That is not nice and flush, but not much I can do. I don't really care for this. This doesn't look like it's sitting there flush, but I don't remember what it looked like earlier. And then this side is an atrocity. It seems like this whole plastic piece has just been pushed that way towards the passenger side, because when you look at the rubber grommet for the windshield wiper, it's not flush at all over there. I mean, the plastic piece is for the most part, but this whole piece, both the top and the bottom, seem like they're shifted over that way. I've got this Torx screw down. That's the first one that I did. I recommend you guys do the same thing. And then I put these guys in there on this side and that side. I think it's a T20 if I remember correctly. But yeah, leave a comment. Let me know, how does this look for you guys before you before you take it apart, like how does it look from the factory? Because to me, this doesn't look right. Anyway, still, just it's fine. Now I got to put in my flat bottom steering wheel. I got to put this thing back in. This is actually a heated steering wheel. This is another project for another day. That's what that wire is down here. This is the heating element. As you can see, it's not hooked up to anything. But this is a chunky boy. I've got a video on this guy. Super thick, love it. Highly recommend it. It's probably my top 5 mods, right up there with this EasyGuard PKE system. I just gotta put this plastic piece back on. But guys, that's a wrap. If you guys have questions, of course, leave them in the comments. I probably won't get back to you immediately because this is not a full-time job for me. It's probably gonna take me maybe 5 minutes to get back to you, or probably 5 days. Who knows? There's no telling. Yeah, side note, I have way too many flat bottom, super thick boy steering wheels with finger grooves. And if you guys haven't seen the videos, man, this is the non-heated version. And then this is the heated steering wheel version. Man, you guys just keep sleeping on my channel. I got all sorts of gems on here. But yeah. All right, you made it this far in the video. You got to see a little bonus Easter eggs. See ya.